Alright, this is going to be just a quick video on deburring again. This is regarding edge trailing versus edge leading for deburring. I went ahead and sharpened the knife again really quick. I did basically the same number of passes that I did the first time. You can see it's got a nice big heavy burr on it. Like I mentioned, I'm going to do edge trailing passes, basically stropping passes instead of into the edge or edge leading passes, and see what kind of difference there is. This actually has a finer burr than the first video, because it actually cuts. But there is still a burr there. Normally what I find is when I do edge trailing strokes, instead of shearing the burr off, doing into the edge passes, that shears the burr off. What it does is it normally flips it to the other side, and kind of like a paper clip, you flip it back and forth. It weakens it over time, but I find that it doesn't remove the burr nearly as fast as when I do into the edge passes. Not using a lot of pressure, just about the weight of my hand, maybe a tiny bit more. It's malfunctioning here, but it did remove or reduce the burr, but there is still a pretty good burr there. Like I said, I find that it tends to flip it back and forth. Now, if you take quite a bit more passes and you keep flipping it back and forth, it'll generally come off, or it'll just be really easy to remove with strops. What happens too is, it feels really gritty. I think that's the same number of passes that I did on the the first video before I did a paper cut test, and the burr feels like it's standing straight out. And what would normally happen is you cut something. At first it feels really sharp. You cut something, and that burr will fold over, and that sharpness will go away. But like I said, if you work it back and forth a bunch, eventually it'll come off, or it'll get really weak and you can remove it with burrs. But I just find it so much faster to remove it with the edge leading strokes. See how you can see it's grabbing a little bit. It's not as clean, but now because it's really toothy feeling and that burr standing straight out, if I do a slicing motion, it'll cut a little bit finer, but it's still much coarser feeling. It's making a lot more noise going through the paper. But yeah, overall I prefer the edge leading for deburring versus the stropping method.